What's going on, guys? Coverkiller here. It's time for another album review from the year 2010. Yes, it's another new one. Another one that is just coming out. It will be coming out later on this month. And it is going to be, this particular day, Overkill's Ironbound. Of course, I am the Coverkiller. Overkill, I would have to say, is the neck killer. It is one of the premier thrash bands, one of the most underappreciated thrash bands, however, one of the best thrash bands that you're ever going to find out there on the market today. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, now wait a second, I recognize that song in the background. That's off of Killbox 13. Why the fuck are you playing that? Well, to prove a point, actually. Overkill has been on so many countless record labels over the years, and has been associated with so many people that it's almost really impressive to know that they are still around and have not given up or given any ground ever since they originally started in 1980. That's right, this is a band that is now spanning 30 years, folks, in the heavy metal game. They've been on such labels such as Megaforce, CMC, Metal Is, Spitfire, Regan, Bodog, Atlantic is probably the most notable. But now they are on a new label, and that is Nuclear Blast. Yes, Nuclear Blast, which means I can't post any of the songs from the album, except for the one that I did, which is the title track. Let's switch over to that. Alright, now that we're on the same page, on the same album, we can actually get to the music itself. Now, if you know anything about Overkill, they are known for two different things. One, they are an extremely fast, aggressive band. It's kind of what some people would say would be a little bit of a Slayer-esque side. However, they also have a very melodic side. And Bobby Blitz's voice is ridiculous. He has a tremendous range, something that he has been exhibited, and something that has remained trial-tested and true now for the same 30-year span. Now, you would think with some of the stuff that he's been able to do throughout the years, some of the high-pitched squeals that come out of this man's voice, the tone in which he's able to use, that eventually his vocal cords are going to wear out, and he's not going to be able to do the same thing that he was able to do whenever he was younger. Here's the thing. I saw Overkill a couple of years ago during the Gigantour 2006, I believe it was, in Columbus, Ohio, where they were able to do, in a perfect form, with Bobby not missing a beat, not missing a scream, one of their very first songs, Rotten to the Core. It was picture perfect. It's a thrash masterpiece. I have it posted here. You should go check it out. I will post a link on the description, or in the description box, should I say. Now, as for Ironbound itself as an album, it combines elements from the latter era while still remaining very true to what got them as far as it has. Now, if you know anything about the eras of Overkill, I would really say that there's about three distinct eras. The beginning is probably the one that a lot of people will remember the most. A lot of people are going to remember albums such as Feel the Fire, Taking Over, The Years of Decay. The Years of Decay, probably one of the best albums of all time, in my opinion. This is an album that really combined absolute raw aggression along with their craftsmanship as artists, as musicians, in an effort to just make an album that combines short, aggressive songs with long and very well executed songs that were able to really fill a mood. Now, I would have to say that this era is represented in the lengthier tracks that are on this album. This is a good example. Ironbound is a very good example because it does have a melodic part here in the middle that's going to be coming up. The Green and Black, track number 1. The Goal Is Your Soul and Killing for a Living. The longer songs, you can really see a little bit of a hint of the Years of Decay. Not so much in the way that it's crafted, however, it's in the way in which it's executed. It's executed very, very well. Now, the middle part is the part that most people forget, really. There are albums in here, like From the Underground to Below, WFO, and so on, that people will, well, they'll know about them because they're Overkill fans. However, finding them sometimes can be extremely difficult, and it can be proven to be a struggle. This is not so much represented on this album whatsoever. This is a time in which the band really was doing a lot more of their aggressive work, and there's very little resemblance to some of that expert song crafting ability. However, there are still some fantastic albums in this particular part of history of Overkill. Definitely check them out. Really, it's all in the ears of the listener. And then, of course, you have the modern era. The modern era started with Bloodletting and is also encompassed albums such as Killbox 13, Relics 14, Ironbound, and Immortalis. Pretty sure I got them all in there. This is probably the era that is represented the most, and rightfully so, considering it is the era in which we can currently kind of bind them together in. However, what Nuclear Blast is able to do for Overkill is this. It's able to allow them to explore their craft a little bit further, explore that melodic side that really has been absent in their music until recent years. Let them really explore it a little bit more to make them an album that they can consider to be a quote-unquote thrashterpiece. And it also gives them a little bit more in the way of wiggle room with both production value, as well as a little bit more money. Nuclear Blast is not necessarily Atlantic Records, which Overkill was on. However, Nuclear Blast, as far as the metal scene is concerned, is definitely one of the giants. This is something that you definitely want to be a part of if you're a metal musician. Some people will criticize it, but other people really understand that Nuclear Blast has been trial tested now for nearly 25 years. Now, as for the music itself, I've kind of done that, but let's run through the track listing. We have the Green and Black that starts it off. 8 minute, 12-second long opener. Very, very good opener. Longest song on the album. Ironbound, you're currently listening to it now. Bring Me the Night, is track number 3. The Goal Is Your Soul, track 4. Give a Little, track number 5. Track number 6 is Endless War. Track number 7, The Head and Heart. Track number 8, In Vain. 9, Killing for a Living. And track 10, the pulse-pounding finale, The SRC. Not to be confused with the SPV, which is also a metal label. Overall, I would say that this album definitely achieves thrashterpiece mentality and thrashterpiece status. However, in the grand scheme of Overkill, I would have to put other albums above it. Albums such as The Years of Decay, albums such as Killbox 13. These are albums that never leave my mind. These are albums that I continue to go back to. And even taking over and Feel the Fire from the early era, you could potentially say that I'm very, very old school whenever it comes to Overkill, and rightfully so, considering that's what introduced me to the band. However, Ironbound is definitely a quality heir to the throne to the albums that have preceded it that have definitely gained Overkill a lot more notoriety with fans that are just discovering this band. They're really reaching out to a second generation's worth of Overkill fans, and they're doing it very, very well with these albums. So Overkill's Ironbound is going to be released here in about a week, and whenever it does come out, I definitely recommend you guys picking it up. Should be available at stores nationwide. Give this band a chance if you have not listened to them before. You will definitely be pleased in what you hear. Coverkiller gives it a star. You should give it a star, or at least give it a check. Ironbound, Overkill, 9.0 out of 10. Gotta give it a high credit. Listen to that voice. Take care, guys.